Okay, so we were literally hours away from parts of the US government just going dark. And then, at the last possible second, Washington pulls a deal out of a hat. So, how did we get that close to the edge? And is this thing for real, or is it just, a temporary ceasefire? Let's break down this whole shutdown standoff.
So, first things first, the big news you need to know. A deal was reached. Congress actually managed to pull the government back from the brink of a partial shutdown. So for now, phew, the lights are going to stay on. Federal employees can finally breathe a little sigh of relief.
Okay, so a deal was reached. Great. But that just opens up a whole bunch of other questions, right? Like, why did this fight get so intense in the first place? How did we even get here? And maybe the most important question of all, did this 11th hour deal actually solve anything? Or did they just kick the can down the road?
All right, let's get into the sticking point. Why was a shutdown even on the table? Well, this entire high-stakes game of chicken, it all came down to a huge, fierce disagreement over funding for just one controversial government department.
And that department, right at the center of the storm, was Homeland Security. You know it as DHS. Now, this is a massive agency, but the real political dynamite here was its control over immigration and customs enforcement. Yep, ICE. That one detail put this entire funding bill smack dab in the middle of the nation's incredibly explosive debate on immigration.
So look, this wasn't just about the money, not at all. This was a strategic battle, a real chess match. On one side, you had Democrats saying, hey, let's pass these 5 easy funding bills and deal with a controversial DHS one separately. But on the other side, Republicans were like, no way. All 6 bills have to move together as one big package. It was a classic political leverage play, really.
So you're probably asking, why? Why was this one bill so toxic? Well, the push for major reform was really ignited by the tragic shooting deaths of 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis by federal agents. After that, Democrats basically drew a line in the sand. They said they would not approve funding without some huge changes to how ICE operates, things like ending mask wearing by agents and guaranteeing independent investigations. And as that clock was ticking down, you can bet the key players were not holding back. Their public statements, well, they really show you just how far apart everyone was. Take Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. He basically framed this as a moral issue, a line in the sand. He said Republicans in Congress cannot allow this violent status quo to continue. For Democrats, this wasn't just about dollars and cents. It was about refusing to fund what they called a violent status quo without forcing some real, concrete reforms at ICE.
Then you have House Speaker Mike Johnson, who pointed out a huge practical problem. He said, look, even if we get a deal, we might inevitably be in a short shutdown situation. Why? Because the House was already out of session for the weekend. So just because of the calendar, he was warning that a brief shutdown might happen no matter what.
And then, here's a twist nobody really saw coming. Donald Trump, over on Truth Social, chimed in. He said, hopefully both Republicans and Democrats will give a very much needed bipartisan yes vote. Coming from him, a call for bipartisanship on a spending bill, that definitely turned some heads in Washington.
So with the pressure cooker about to explode, how do they finally break this logjam? Well, spoiler alert, they didn't actually solve the problem. Instead, they came up with a compromise that was really designed to do just one thing, buy themselves a little more time.
Okay, so here's how the compromise works. It's basically a 3-step dance. Step 1. They separated that really controversial DHS funding bill from everything else. That was a bit of a procedural win for the Democrats. Step 2. They funded everything else. We're talking 96% of the government all the way through September. And Step 3. They kicked the can on the big fight. They funded DHS at its current levels, but, and this is a big but, only for a very short time.
So how long is this temporary fix? Get this, just 2 weeks. That's it. 2 weeks. So you see, this deal isn't a solution. It's really just hitting the pause button on the much, much bigger fight over DHS and ICE reform. Okay, so a deal was struck in the Senate. Awesome. But hold on, we're not totally out of the woods yet. That's not the end of the story. There are still a few pretty crucial hurdles to clear before a shutdown is completely, 100% off the table.
And this is exactly why Speaker Johnson was being so cautious about the timeline. See, the old government funding officially expires on Friday, but the House, they're gone for the weekend. They can't even vote on this new package until Monday at the earliest. And that creates this weird weekend gap where technically speaking, we could still see a very brief shutdown before this new deal actually becomes law.
So, yeah, the immediate crisis seems to be averted. But that fundamental conflict? It's still just simmering right below the surface. And you have to ask, by kicking this can down the road for just 2 weeks, has Congress just set the stage for an even bigger, maybe even more explosive fight over immigration and border policy? I guess we're all going to find out very, very soon.